Synopsis of the 11th Tablet. The spaceport's land, till Moon, is declared a neutral zone. It is granted to Ninmah, who is renamed Ninharzag. Marduk gets the Dark Lands, the Enlilites the Olden Lands. Marduk's grandsons quarrel. Satu murders Asar. Impregnating herself, Asar's wife Asta bears Haran. In aerial battles over Tilmoon, Haran vanquishes Satu. The Enlilites deem it prudent to prepare another spaceport. Enki's son Dumuzi and Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter, fall in love. Fearing the consequences, Marduk causes Dumuzi's death. Seeking his body, Inanna is put to death, then resurrected. Inanna launches a war to seize and punish Marduk. The Enlilites break into his hideaway in the Great Mount. They seal the uppermost chamber to entomb Marduk alive. Marduk's wife, Sarpanit, and his son Nabu plead for his life. Ningizida, knowing the Mount's secrets, reaches Marduk. Marduk, his life spared, goes into exile. Enki and Enlil divide the earth among their other sons. Praise to Ninharzag on earth, the peacemaker. In unison the Anunnaki proclaimed. During the first Shar, after the deluge, Ninharzag to cool down tempers managed. Nibiru with gold to resupply was over ambitions and rivalries paramount. Slowly the earth to teem with life returned, with the seeds of life by Enki preserved. What by itself survived was augmented on land and in the air and waters. Most precious of all, the Anunnaki discovered were mankind's own remnants. As in bygone clays, when the primitive workers were created, the Anunnaki, few and strained for civilized workers, now clamored. By the time the first Shar after the deluge was completed, the peaceful truce by an unexpected occurrence was shattered. Not between Marduk and Ninurta, not between the Enki and Enlil clans was the eruption. When Marduk's own sons by the Igigi abetted was tranquility broken. When Marduk and Sarpanit and their sons and daughters on Lamu the deluge outwaited, the two sons Asar and Satu to the daughters of Shamgaz, the Igigi leader, a liking took. When to earth they all returned, the two brothers, the two sisters espoused. Asar, the one called Asta, chose, Satu, the one called Nabat, betrothed. Asar, with his father Marduk in the dark-hued lands to abide, chose. Satu, near the landing place where the Igigi dwelt, with Shamgaz his dwelling made. About the domains on earth was Shamgaz concerned, where shall the Igigi the masters be? So did Shamgaz, the other Igigi, in sight. Of that Nabat to Satu daily spoke. By staying with his father Asar, the successor alone shall be, the fertile lands he will inherit. So did Shamgaz and his daughter Nabat to Satu day after day say. How the succession in the hands of Satu alone to retain, father and daughter schemed. On an auspicious day they made a banquet, Igigi and Anunnaki to it they invited. Asar, unsuspecting, to celebrate with his brother also came. Nabat, his spouse's sister, prepared the tables, footstools she also set. She beautified herself with lyra in hand, a song to mighty Asar she sang. Satu before him choice roast meat cut, with salted knife for him fatlings he served. Shamgaz in a large goblet new wine to Asar offered, an admixture for him he made. A large vessel, mighty to look upon, with elixired wine he gave him. In good humor Asar merrily he arose and sang, with cymbals in his hand he chanted. Then by the admixtured wine he was overcome, to the ground he fell down. Let us for a sound sleep take him, the host to the others at the banquet said. They Asar to another chamber carried, in a coffin they him laid. The coffin with tight seals they closed, into the sea they threw it. When word of what had happened Asta reached, to Marduk her husband's father she raised a wailing. Asar to his death in the sea's depths was brutally thrown, quickly must the coffin be found. They searched the sea for Asar's coffin, by the shores of the dark-hued land it was found. Inside the stiff body of Asar lay, from its nostrils the breath of life departed. Marduk, his clothes rent, on his forehead he put ashes. My son, Sarpanit cried and wept, great were her grief and mourning. Enki was distraught and wept. The curse of Cain is repeated to his son in agony, he said. Asta to high heavens a wailing raised, to Marduk for revenge and an heir an appeal she made. Satu his death must meet. By your own seed a successor let me conceive. Let by your name his name remembered be, the lineage surviving. This, alas, cannot be done, Enki to Marduk and Asta said. The brother who killed the brother's brother must be the keeper. For this Satu must be spared. By his seed an heir to Asar you must conceive. By these twists of fate Asta was baffled, distraught the rules to devise she was determined. Before the body of Asar was wrapped and in the shroud in a shrine preserved, from his faithless Asta the life seed of Asar extracted. With it Asta herself made conceive an heir and avenger to Asar to be born. To Enki and his sons, to Marduk and his brothers, Satu word delivered. The sole heir and Marduk's successor am I. Of the land of the two Narrows I will be the master. Before the Anunnaki's council Asta the claim refuted. With Asar's heir I am with child. Among the rivers bulrushes with the child she hid. The wrath of Satu she was avoiding. Haran she called the boy. To be his father's avenger she raised him. Satu by this was disconcerted. Shamgaz from ambitions did not retreat. From earth year to earth year the Igigi and their offspring from the landing place spread, until the borders of Tilmun in Harzag's sacred region closer they moved. To overrun the place of the celestial chariots the Igigi and their earthlings threatened. In the dark-hued lands the child Haran by Earth's quick life cycles to a hero grew. By his great-uncle Gibel was Haran adopted. By him was he trained and instructed. For him Gibel winged sandals for soaring fashioned. To fly like a falcon he was able. For him Gibel a divine harpoon made. Its arrows bolts of missiles were. In the highlands of the south did him Gibel the arts of metals and smithing teach. The secret of a metal called iron Gibel to Haran revealed. From it weapons Haran made. From local earthlings an army he raised. To challenge Satu and the Igigi northward, across land and river they marched. When Haran and his earthlings' army the border of Tilmun, the land of the missiles, reached, Satu to Haran words of challenge sent. Between us two alone is the conflict, let us one-on-one in contest meet. In the skies above Tilmun, Satu in his whirlwind for combat Haran awaited. When Haran toward him like a falcon skyward soared, a poisoned dart at him Satu shot. Like a scorpion's sting it Haran failed. When Asta this saw, a cry to heaven she sent forth. For Ningazida she cried out. From his celestial boat Ningazida came down. To save the hero, for his mother he came. With magic powers Ningazida the poison to benevolent blood converted. By morning was Haran healed. From the dead was he returned. Then with a fiery pillar, like a heavenly fish with fins and a fiery tail, Ningazida to Haran provided. Its eyes from blue to red to blue their colors changed. Toward the triumphant Satu, Haran in the fiery pillar soared. Far and wide each other they chased, fierce and deadly was the battle. At first Haran's fiery pillar was hit, then with his harpoon Haran Satu smote. To the ground Satu crashing down came. By Haran in tethers he was bound. When before the council Haran with his captive uncle came, they saw that he was blinded, his testicles squashed. Like a discarded jar he stood. Let Satu blind and airless live, so did Asta to the council say. To end his days as a mortal, among the Igigi the council his fate determined. Triumphant was Haran, declared the throne of his father to inherit. On a metal tablet was the council's decision inscribed. In the hall of records they placed it. In his abode Marduk with the decision was pleased. By what had happened he was sorrowed. Though Haran a son of Asar his son was, from Shamgaz the Igigi he was descended. A domain, one as among the Anunnaki allocated, to him was not given. Having lost both sons, in each other Marduk and Sarpanit solace sought. In time to them another son was born, Nabu, prophecy bearer they named him. Now, this is the account of why in the far away a new chariot's place was built, and the love of Dumuzi and Inanna that Marduk by Dumuzi's death disrupted. It was after the contesting of Haran and Satu and their aerial battle over Tilmun that Enlil his 3 sons to a council summoned. With concern to them of what was happening, he said, "In the beginning the earthlings in our image and after our likeness we made. Now the Anunnaki offspring in the image and likeness of the earthlings became. Then it was Cain who his brother killed. Now a son of Marduk is his brother's killer. For the first time ever, an Anunnaki offspring from earthlings, an army raised. Weapons from a metal of the Anunnaki, a secret, in their hands he placed. From the days when by Alelu and Anzu our legitimacy was challenged, disruption and rule-breaking by the Igigi continued. Now the beacon peaks in the domain of Marduk are located. The landing place by the Igigi is held. Now toward the place of the chariots the Igigi are advancing. In the name of Satu to all the heaven-earth facilities they claim will lay. So did Enlil to his 3 sons say, to take countersteps to them he proposed. An alternative heaven-earth facility in secret establish we must. Let it in Ninurta's land beyond the oceans in the midst of trusted earthlings come to be. Thus was the secret mission in the lands of Ninurta entrusted. In the mountain lands beyond the oceans beside the great lake, a new bond heaven-earth he was setting up. Within an enclosure he placed it. At the foot of the mountains where the gold nuggets were scattered, a plain with firm ground he chose. On it for ascent and descent markings he made. Primitive are the facilities, but the purpose they will serve. So did Ninurta to his father Enlil in good time declare. From there gold shipments to Nibiru can continue. From there in need we too can ascend. At that time what as a blessed event began as a horrible occurrence ended. At that time Dumuzi, Enki's youngest son, to Inanna, Nanar's daughter, a liking took. Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter, by the lord of herding was captivated. A love that knows no bounds engulfed them, a passion their hearts inflamed. Many of the love songs that for a long time thereafter were sung, Inanna and Dumuzi were the first to sing them. By song their love they recounted. To Dumuzi, his youngest son, Enki a large domain above the Abzu allotted. Maluha, the Black Land, was its name. Highland trees there grew. Its waters abundant were. Large bulls among its river reeds roamed. Greatly numbered were its cattle. Silver from its mountains came. Its copper bright as gold was a glitter. Greatly beloved was Dumuzi. By Enki after the death of Asar he was favored. Of his youngest brother Marduk was jealous. Inanna by her parents Nanar and Ningal was beloved. Enlil by her cradle Set. Beautiful beyond describing she was. In martial arts with Anunnaki heroes she competed. Of journeys in the heavens and of celestial boats from her brother Utu she learned. A sky ship of her own to roam in earth's skies to her the Anunnaki presented. After the deluge on the landing platform, Dumuzi and Inanna their eyes on each other set. At the dedication of the artificed mountains was between them a warm encounter. Hesitant at first they were, he of Enki's clan, she of Enlil an offspring. When Ninharzag for peace the disputing clans together brought, Inanna and Dumuzi away from the others to be together managed. Love to each other they professed. As they went strolling together, sweet words of alluring love to each other they said. Side by side they lay down, one heart with the other heart chatted. Around her waist Dumuzi put his arm, like a wild bull to take her he wished. Let me teach you, to Inanna Dumuzi said. Gently she kissed him, then to him of her mother she spoke. What fib could I tell my mother? What words will you tell Ningal? Let us of our love my mother tell, of joy cedar perfume she will on us sprinkle. To the dwelling place of Ningal, Inanna's mother, the lovers went. To them Ningal her blessing gave, of Dumuzi the mother of Inanna approved. Lord Dumuzi, as a son-in-law of Nanar, you are worthy to him, she said. Dumuzi, as bridegroom by Nanar himself, was welcomed. Inar's brother Utu, let it so be, said. Perchance the espousing peace between the clans truly will bring enlil to them, all said. When of the love and betrothal Dumuzi to his father and brothers spoke, Enki of peace through espousal also was thinking. His blessing to Dumuzi he gave. Dumuzi's brothers, all except Marduk, about the espousal were joyful. A betrothal bed of gold by Gibel was fashioned, Nergal blue-hued lapis stone sent. Sweet dates, a fruit by Ninana favored, beside the bed they in a pile placed. Under the fruits, the beads of lapis they hid for Inanna to discover. As the custom was, to perfume and clothe Inanna, a sister of Dumuzi was sent. Geshtiana, a sister-in-law to be, was her name. To Inanna, what was in her heart revealed of her future with Dumuzi, to her she said, A vision of a great nation I have, as a great Anunnaki, Dumuzi there will rise. His name over others shall be exalted, his queen spouse I shall be. Princely status we will share, rebellious countries we shall together subdue. To Dumuzi I will status give, the country I will rightly direct. Inanna's visions of rulership and glory by Geshtinanna to her brother Marduk were reported. By Inanna's ambitions Marduk was greatly disturbed. To Geshtinanna a secret plan he told. To her brother Dumuzi, to the herder's dwelling Geshtinanna went. Lovely to behold and perfumed, to her brother Dumuzi thus she said, Before, with your young wife in your embrace, with you will sleep. A legitimate heir by a sister born you must have. Inanna's son to succession shall not be entitled. On your mother's knees he will not be raised. She put his hand in her hand, she pressed her body against his body. My brother, with you I will lie down. Bridegroom, with you a peer of Enki we shall have. So did Geshtinanna to Dumuzi whisper, a noble issue from her womb to have. Into her womb Dumuzi poured the semen, by her caressing he fell asleep. During the night Dumuzi had a dream, a premonition of death he envisioned. In the dream 7 evil bandits he saw coming into his dwelling. The master has sent us for you, son of Dutter, to him they said. They chased away his ewes, his lambs and kids they drove away. The headdress of lordship they took off his head, the royal robe off his body they tore. The staff of shepherding they took and broke, his cup from its peg they threw down. Naked and barefooted they seized him, in fetters they his hands bound. In the name of the princely bird and the falcon they left him dying. Disturbed and startled, Dumuzi in the middle of the night awoke. To Geshtinanna the dream he told. The dream is not favorable, Geshtinanna to the distraught Dumuzi said. Marduk of raping me will accuse you, evil he will send. To try you and disgrace you he will order, the liaison with an Enlilite to disunite. As a wounded beast Dumuzi a cry roared out. Betrayal, betrayal, he shouted. To Utu, Inanna's brother, help me, word he sent. The name of his father Enki as a talisman he uttered. Through the desert of Imush, the snake's desert, Dumuzi rushed to escape. To the place of mighty waterfalls from the evildoers he ran to hide. Where the gushing waters, the rocks to slippery smoothness made, Dumuzi slipped and fell. The onrushing waters his lifeless body in a white froth swept away, evil emissaries to arrest you. Now this is the account of Inanna's descent to the lower Abzu, and the great Anunnaki war, and how Marduk, in the Ekr, alive was imprisoned. When the lifeless body of Dumuzi from the great lake's waters by Ningal was retrieved, to the abode of Nergal and Ereshkigal in the lower Abzu the body was brought. On a stone slab was the dead body of Dumuzi, a son of Enki, placed. When of what had happened word to Enki was sent, Enki rent his clothes, on his forehead he put ashes. My son, for Dumuzi he lamented. What have I sinned to be so punished, out loud he asked. When I to earth from Nibiru came, Ea, he whose home is waters, was my name. With waters did the celestial chariots obtain their thrust power, in waters I splashed down. Then by an avalanche of waters the earth was swept over. In waters did Asar my grandchild drown, by waters my beloved Dumuzi is now dead. Everything I had done for righteous purpose did I do it. Why am I punished? Why has fate against me turned? So did Enki bewail and lament. When, from Geshtiana, the ferocity of occurrences was discovered, greater was Enki's agony. Now Marduk, my firstborn, for his deed will also suffer. By the disappearance and death of Dumuzi was Inanna worried, then grieved. Then to the lower Abzu she hurried, Dumuzi's body for burial to retrieve. When Ereshkigal, her sister, of the arrival of Inanna at the precinct's gates was told, Ereshkigal a devious scheme on the part of Inanna suspected. At each of the 7 gates, one of Inanna's accoutrements and weapons was from her removed. Then, unclothed and powerless before Ereshkigal's throne, of scheming an error by Nergal, Dumuzi's brother, she was accused. Trembling with fury, Ereshkigal to her sister's explanations would not listen. Let loose against her the 60 diseases, Ereshkigal, her vizier, Namtar, in anger ordered. By the disappearance of Inanna in the lower Abzu were her parents much worried. Nanar to Enlil in the matter went, Enlil to Enki a message sent. From Nergal his son, Ereshkigal's spouse, Enki what had happened learned. From clay of the Abzu Enki 2 emissaries fashioned, beings without blood, by death rays unharmed. To the lower Abzu he sent them, Inanna to bring back, whether alive or dead. When before Ereshkigal they came, Ereshkigal by their appearance was puzzled. Are you Anunnaki? Are you earthlings? With bewilderment she asked them. Namtar the magical weapons of power against them directed, but unharmed the 2 were. To the lifeless body of Inanna he took them, hanging from a stake she was. Upon the corpse the clay emissaries a pulsar and an emitter directed. Then the water of life on her they sprinkled, in her mouth the plant of life they placed. Then Inanna stirred, her eyes she opened, from the dead Inanna arose. When the 2 emissaries Inanna to the upper world were ready to return, Inanna the lifeless body of Dumuzi to take along them ordered. At the 7 gates of the lower Abzu to Inanna her accoutrements and attributes were returned. To the abode of Dumuzi in the Black Land, the lover of her youth to take the emissaries she ordered. There to wash him with pure water, with sweet oil him anoint. Then to clothe him in a red shroud, upon a slab of lapis lay him. Then in the rocks for him to rest place carve out, the day of arising there to await. As for herself, to the abode of Enki Inanna set her steps. Retribution for her beloved's death she wanted, the death of Marduk, the culprit she demanded. There has been death enough, Enki to her said. Marduk as an instigator was, but murder he committed not. When Inanna learned that Marduk would not by Enki be punished, Inanna to her parents and brother went. To high heaven she a wailing raised, justice, revenge, death to Marduk, she cried out. At Enlil's abode his sons Inanna and Utu joined, for a council of war they gathered. Ninurta, whom the rebel Anzu defeated, for strong measures argued. Of secret words between Marduk and the Agigi exchanged, Utu to them reported. Of Marduk, an evil serpent, earth must be rid, Enlil with them agreed. When the demand for Marduk's surrender to Enki his father was sent, Enki to his abode Marduk and all the other sons summoned. Though for my beloved Dumuzi I am still grieving, Marduk's rights I must defend. Though evil did Marduk instigate, by ill fate, not by Marduk's hand, did Dumuzi die. Marduk is my firstborn, Enki is his mother, for succession he is destined. From death by Ninurta's gang, by us all he must be protected, so did Enki say. Only Gibel and Ningal their father's call heeded. Ningazita was opposed. Nergal was hesitant. Only if in mortal danger he will I help, he said. It was after that a war of ferocity unknown between the 2 clans erupted. Unlike the contending of Haran and Satu, of earthlings descended it was. A battle between Anunnaki, Nibiruin born among them, on another planet was loosed. By Inanna was the warfare begun. In her skyship to the domains of Enki's son she crossed over. Marduk to battle she challenged. To the domains of Ningal and Gibel she him pursued. To assist her, Ninurta from his storm bird, withering beams at the enemy's strongholds shot. Ishkur from the skies with scorching lightnings and smashing thunders attacked. In the Abzu from the river's fish he washed away, cattle in the fields he dispersed. To the north, the place of the artificed mounts, Marduk then retreated. Pursuing him, Ninurta on the habitation's poison-bearing missiles rained. His weapon that tears apart the people in those lands robbed of their senses, the canals that the river's waters bore, red from blood became. Ishkur's brilliances the night's darkness into flaming days converted. As the devastating battles northward advanced, Marduk in the Eker himself ensconced. Gibel for it an unseen shield devised, Nergal to heaven its all-seeing eye raised. With a weapon of brilliance, by a horn directed, Inanna the hiding place attacked. Haran to defend his grandfather came, by her brilliance was his right eye damaged. While Utu the Igigi and their horde of earthlings beyond Tilmoon held off, at the foot of the artifice mounts Anunnaki, this and that clan supporting in battle clashed. Let Marduk surrender, let the bloodshed end, so did Enlil to Enki words convey. Let brother talk to brother, to Enki Ninharzag a message sent. In his hideout within the Eker, Marduk his pursuers to defy continued. Within the house which like a mountain is, his final stand he made. Inanna, the massive stone structure could not surmount, its smooth sides her weapons deflected. Then Ninurta of the secret entrance learned, the swivel stone on the north side he found. Through a dark corridor Ninurta passed, the grand gallery he reached. Its vault, by the many-hued emissions of the crystals like a rainbow, was aglitter. Inside, by the intrusion alerted, Marduk with ready weapons Ninurta awaited. With weapons responding, smashing the wonder crystals, Ninurta up the gallery kept going. Into the upper chamber, the place of the great pulsating stone, Marduk retreated. At its entrance, Marduk the sliding stone locks lowered, from one and all admission they barred. Into the Eker, Inanna and Ishkur, Ninurta followed. What next to do they contemplated. Let the encased hiding chamber be Marduk's stone coffin to them, Ishkur said. To 3 blocking stones ready for down gliding, Ishkur their attention drew. Let slow death, by alive being buried, be Marduk's sentence, Inanna her consent gave. At the end of the gallery, the blocking stones let loose. Each one of them 1 stone for plugging slid down, Marduk as in a tomb to seal. Now this is the account of how Marduk was saved, and to exile departed, and how the Eker was dismantled and lordship over the lands rearranged. Away from the sun and light, without food or water, Marduk within the Eker alive was entombed. By his imprisonment and punishment without trial, Sarpanit, his spouse, a wailing raised. To Enki, her father-in-law, she hurried. With the young son Nabu, to him she came. To be among the living, Marduk must be returned, to Enki, Sarpanit said. He sent her to Utu and Nanar, who with Inanna can intercede. Wearing a garment of atonement, to the Lord Marduk give life, she pleaded. Let him humbly life continue, rulership he will lay aside. Appeased was not Inanna. For the death of my beloved, the instigator must die, Inanna retorted. Ninharzag, the peacemaker, the brothers Enki and Enlil summoned. Punishment to Marduk must come. Death is not warranted to them, she said. Let Marduk in exile live, the succession on earth to Ninurta submit. Enlil by her words was pleased and smiled. Ninurta was his son, of Ninurta she was the mother. If between succession and life the choice is, what can I, a father, say? So did Enki with heavy heart answer, in my lands widespread is the desolation. Warfare must end. For Dumuzi I am still in mourning. Let Marduk live in exile. If peace is to be returned and Marduk shall live, binding arrangements must be made, Enlil to Enki said. All facilities that heaven and earth bond, to my hands alone must be entrusted. The mastery over the land of the 2 Narrows to another son of yours you must give. The Igigi who Marduk follow, the landing place must give up and abandon. To a land of no return, by no descendant of Sesudra inhabited, must Marduk in exile go. So did Enlil forcefully declare, to be foremost among the brothers he meant. The hand of fate Enki in his heart acknowledged. Let it so be, with bowed head he said. Ningazita alone the Eker innards knows, let him over its land the master be. After the decisions by the great Anunnaki were announced, Ningazita for the rescue they summoned. How Marduk from the blocked and sealed innards to extricate was his challenge. To let free the one who alive is buried, a task beyond conceiving to him they gave. Ningazita, the Eker's secret designs contemplated, how to circumvent the blockings he planned. Through a chiseled upper opening Marduk will be rescued to the leaders he said. At a place which I will show them, a doorway in the stones they will cut. From it upward a twisting passageway they shall bore, a rescue shaft creating. Through hidden hollowings to the Eker's midst they will continue. At the vortex of the hollowings through the stones they will break through. A doorway to the insides they will blow open, thereby the blockings circumventing. Up the grand gallery they will continue, the 3 stone bars they will raise. The uppermost chamber, Marduk's death prison, they will reach. Anunnaki, by Ningazita guided, his outlined plan then followed. With tools that cracked the stones the opening they made, the rescue shaft they fashioned. The insides of the artifice mount they reached, an exit they blew open. Circumventing the 3 blocking stones, the uppermost chamber they reached. On a small platform, the portcullises they raised. Marduk fainted, they rescued. Carefully through the twisting shaft they the Lord lowered, to fresh air they him brought. Outside, Sarpanit and Nabu, spouse and father, were awaiting. A joyful reunion it was. When to Marduk his father Enki the terms of release conveyed, Marduk was enraged. I would rather die than my birthright forfeit, he shouted. Sarpanit into his arms Nabu thrust. We are part of your future, she softly said. Marduk was angered, Marduk was humbled. To fate I yield, he inaudibly said. With Sarpanit and Nabu to a land of no return he departed. To a place where horned beasts are hunted, with wife and son he went. After Marduk had departed, Ninurta the Eker through the shaft re-entered. Through a horizontal corridor to the Eker's vulva he went. In its east wall, in a niche artfully fashioned, the destiny stone a red radiance was emitting. Its power to kill me grabs, with a killing tracking it me seizes, Ninurta inside the chamber cried. Take it away, to obliteration destroy it, to his lieutenants Ninurta shouted. Retracing his steps through the grand gallery to the topmost chamber Ninurta went. In a hollowed-out chest the heart of the Eker pulsated, its net force by 5 compartments was enhanced. With his baton Ninurta the stone chest struck, with a resonating sound it responded. Its gug stone, that directions determined, Ninurta ordered to be taken out, to a place of his choice carried. Coming down the grand gallery, Ninurta the 27 pairs of Nibiru crystals examined. Many in his fight with Marduk were damaged. Some the struggle intact survived. To remove the whole ones from their grooves Ninurta ordered, the others with his beam he pulverized. Outside the house, which like a mountain is Ninurta in his blackbird sword. To the apex stone his attention he turned, his enemy's epitome it represented. With his weapons he shook it loose, to the ground it in pieces it toppled. By this the fear of Marduk is forever ended, Ninurta victorious declared. On the battleground the assembled Anunnaki the praise of Ninurta announced. Like Anu you are made, to their hero and leader they shouted. To replace the incapacitated beacon, a mount near the place of celestial chariots was chosen. Within its innards the salvaged crystals were rearranged. Upon its peaks the Gugstone, the stone of directing, was installed. Mount Masu, the mount of the supreme celestial bark, the mount was called. At that time Enlil his 3 sons summoned, Ninlil and Ninharzag also attended. Commands over olden lands to confirm, lordships over new lands to assign they met. To Ninurta, who Anzu and Marduk had vanquished, the Enlilship powers were granted, and all the lands his father's surrogate to be. Of the landing place in the Cedar Mountains, lordship to Ishkur was granted. To his domain northward thereof was the landing place joined. The lands south and east thereof were the Igigi, and their offspring had spread. To Nanar as an everlasting endowment were given by his descendants and followers to keep and to hold. The peninsula wherein the place of the chariots was, in Nanar's lands, was included. Utu, as commander of the place and of the navel of the earth, was confirmed. In the land of the two Narrows, as agreed, Enki to Ningishzida the lordship did assign. To that none of Enki's other sons objected, to that Inanna was opposed. To the heritage of Dumuzi, her deceased bridegroom, did Inanna claim lay. A dominion of her own she of Enki and Enlil demanded. How Inanna's demands to satisfy the leaders contemplated, about the lands and the peoples the great Anunnaki who the fates decree counsel took. Regarding the earth and its resettling, words with Anu they exchanged. From the time of the deluge, the great calamity, almost 2 shars have passed. The earthlings have proliferated. From mountain lands to dried lowlands they went. Of civilized mankind, by Sasudra they were descendants. With Anunnaki seed they were intermixed. Offspring of the Igigi who intermarried roamed about. In the distant lands Cain kinfolk survived. Few and lofty were the Anunnaki who from Nibiru had come. Few were their perfect descendants. How settlements for themselves and for earthlings to establish the great Anunnaki considered. However mankind lofty to remain, how to make the many the few obey and serve. About all that, about the future, the leaders with Anu words exchanged. To come to earth one more time, Anu decided. With Antu, his spouse, he wished to come.